Ever wonder what it's like when a plus-size black woman with zero patience collides headfirst with Seoul's most lethal crime boss? When one reckless evening of bad decisions ends with her tangled up in silk sheets that definitely aren't hers. When the kingpin who runs the city's shadows decides she's the one puzzle he absolutely must solve. This is about passion clashing with power, about a woman who'd given up on romance entirely, and a man who believed emotions were liabilities. It's about gunfights, deception, and a connection so powerful it could mend the most broken spirit. If you're hungry for something that'll get your pulse racing and wreck your feelings in the best way, you've landed in the perfect place. Go ahead and smash that subscribe button, and flip on those notifications because this journey is about to sweep you away completely. Let's get started. The headache registered first, hammering against her temples like a drum solo. Jasmine's awareness drifted upward through thick mental haze. Everything hurt in ways that made absolutely no sense. Unfamiliar smells invaded her nostrils. Rich cedarwood, premium whiskey, and designer fabric that screamed wealth and warning. Her cheek rested against something solid, heated, breathing. She lifted her head slowly, cautiously, like moving through quicksand. And then reality smacked her sideways. Welcome back, friends. This is Prince of Afro-Korean stories, where passion, danger, and impossible romance intersect. Please keep sharing your ideas for future episodes. And kindly like, share, and subscribe, and activate notifications so you never miss our latest content. Her full figure was draped across the chest of a man whose skin was a canvas of dark art. Intricate designs crawled up muscular arms, snaked around his neck, disappeared under luxurious material. His palm rested on her hip territorially, even while sleeping, like she was treasure he refused to release. She gasped sharply, grabbing premium linens against her body. Jesus Christ, what did I do? The words barely escaped her throat. She bolted upright way too fast, her braids flying wildly, panic flooding every nerve. And there he lay, the man Seoul's criminal underworld mentioned only in hushed, terrified tones. Minjun, 29 years old, next in line to control the city's most vicious crime empire, calculated, merciless, always dressed in high-end streetwear that made people underestimate him until too late. Now he shared this bed with her. Pleasant dreams, beautiful. His voice came out gravelly from sleep but tinged with amusement. One eye opened lazily, lips pulling into that dangerous smirk that probably sent most folks running for their lives. Jasmine's mouth went completely dry. Her thoughts rewound frantically through the previous night. Flashing club lights, bass shaking her entire body, her laughter hiding heartbreak. Way too many drinks, dancing like tomorrow didn't exist while strangers watched. Then, fragments, his face breaking through the crowd, tattoos glowing under colored lights. His stare capturing her like prey. Then nothing. She clutched the sheets harder. Did we actually do anything? Oh my God, please say no. Minjun laughed deeply, running fingers through messy dark locks. If you can't remember anything, you were way drunker than I thought. Her eyes went huge. Wait, so he stretched with predatory ease, tattoos rippling across defined muscles. Nothing happened unless you count crying all over my shoulder about your ex, while announcing men are all garbage. Jasmine wanted the floor to open up and consume her. She covered her entire face with both hands. You've got to be joking right now. He sat up next to her, his cologne assaulting her senses completely. I've heard confessions from men begging for their lives. Yours was way more entertaining, though the snoring surprised me. Her head whipped toward him, mortified beyond words. I definitely do not snore. Oh, but you do. Plus, you drooled right here. He pointed at his bare chest with mock disgust. This shirt costs more than what you make in a month. You owe me. Despite everything, Jasmine laughed shakily. She hated how easily he broke through her walls. Hated even more how her pulse quickened around him. Grabbing her purse from the floor, she stood unsteadily. This didn't happen. You and me. None of it. We clear? Crystal clear. His smirk grew. Except you're leaving in my clothes. She looked down and nearly fainted. His massive black tee swallowed her curves whole. Her sparkly mini dress sat crumpled on a nearby chair. She yanked the shirt off, fought back into her outfit, and bolted toward the door. Don't you dare show up at my work again, she snapped. Oh, sweetheart, his voice followed her like silk. wrapping around steel. You're definitely going to see me again real soon. Her heart pounded violently as she slammed the door behind her. Outside, Seoul's morning air hit her face hard, but couldn't cool the fire burning in her chest. Jasmine, the curvy black cocktail waitress men wanted but never kept, had just woken up wrapped around the city's most dangerous criminal. She told herself it was a mistake, one night of epically bad judgment. But somewhere deep inside, she knew Minjun's words weren't empty. Their story was only beginning. Minjun wasn't someone who lost focus easily. $1 million transactions could crumble. Enemies could plot his murder, and he'd remain ice-cold, perfectly controlled. But for the first time in forever, his mind wouldn't cooperate. Jasmine, that woman, that bold, voluptuous, blazing force who'd snored on his chest like she had every right to. He told himself it was basic physical attraction. Plenty of men chased her body constantly, but it went way beyond that. It was her energy, how she'd marched out of his place, fearless, treating him like he wasn't Seoul's deadliest heir apparent. No woman had ever brushed him off like that, and he hated how badly he wanted her to do it again. Jasmine, meanwhile, threw herself back into her world of pulsing lights and deafening beats. She squeezed into a tight copper dress that hugged every curve, heels clicking across the club floor with authority. Men stared, women whispered, but her smile stayed painted on. Behind every laugh lived crushing loneliness. Her friend nudged her at the bar. "Girl, you okay? You look stressed." Jasmine sipped her drink, muttering, worse. "I woke up pressed against a gangster's chest this morning." Her friend's eyes nearly popped out. "Wait, what?" "Don't even start," she waved dismissively. "I'm pretending it never happened." But as those words left her mouth, her eyes drifted toward the entrance and froze solid. There he stood. Minjun walked into the club like he owned every atom of oxygen. Tattoos visible under his sleeveless designer shirt, ripped black denim, platinum jewelry catching the lights perfectly. His eyes scanned the entire space before landing directly on her. Jasmine's stomach flipped violently. "Oh, hell no," she hissed under her breath. He smirked like he'd heard her across the entire room. Minutes ticked by, then suddenly he appeared at her side, leaning casually against the bar, completely ignoring every woman trying desperately to catch his attention. "Beautiful," he said smoothly. "You left pretty quick this morning." "Not quick enough, apparently," she glared, gripping her serving tray tighter. "Didn't I specifically tell you to stay away?" "And didn't I specifically tell you," he leaned closer, his scent drowning out everything else, "that I'd be seeing you again real soon?" She rolled her eyes dramatically. "You're not even close to my type." He raised one eyebrow slightly. "Your type? Let me guess. Broke guys who promise the world then disappear after 2 weeks." Her jaw clenched hard. That hit way too close to home. "You don't know anything about me. I know enough." His expression softened unexpectedly. "You're lonely. You drink to forget things. You laugh loud so nobody sees you're breaking inside." Her heart stuttered badly. She covered it with attitude. "Wow, congratulations, Detective Minjun. You want a medal or maybe a cookie?" He grinned wider. "Cookie. Chocolate chip, preferably." She stared at him, then burst into genuine laughter. "You're completely ridiculous, yet you're still here talking to me." From that night forward, Minjun kept appearing like clockwork. Every single night he'd slide into the club, sometimes alone, sometimes with his crew, always watching her specifically. He tipped her absurdly well, teased her until she was flustered beyond repair, and never left until making sure no drunk customer crossed any lines with her. "Why are you stalking me?" she demanded one night, hands planted firmly on her hips, dress shimmering under the lights. He lounged in the VIP section, swirling cognac slowly. "Stalking? Nah. Protecting my investment." "What investment exactly?" "You." Her mouth fell open completely. "Excuse me? You're too valuable wasting time serving drinks to sweaty businessmen. You deserve something better." She snorted loudly. "And let me guess, that something better is beside you?" He grinned like a wolf. "Smart woman." She scoffed and turned away quickly, but her heart was racing uncontrollably. Nobody had ever looked at her the way he did. Like she wasn't just curves and flesh, but something he desperately needed to understand. Later that night, in the back room, She found a package waiting. Inside were designer heels, gorgeous and perfect. A note tucked inside read, "For the beautiful one. Don't run too far. M." She bit her lip hard, caught between anger and something warm spreading through her chest. "Lord help me," she whispered, shaking her head slowly. This man is absolute trouble, but deep down, she already knew trouble had never looked this good before. And while Jasmine kept pushing him away with fiery attitude, Minjun was falling into something he'd never thought possible. Obsession, the kind that money, drugs, and power couldn't fix whatsoever. And he absolutely wasn't letting her slip away. The club lights pulsed rhythmically, but Jasmine's mood was darker than midnight. She'd spent weeks dodging Minjun like some twisted game of cat and mouse. Every night he appeared, tattoos gleaming, cognac in hand, eyes glued to her movements. She hated how it made her feel alive. Hated even more how her coworkers gossiped constantly. "Girl, that crime boss is obsessed with you. Be careful, Jasmine. He's dangerous. Maybe he'll wife you up and you can quit this grind." She laughed it off outwardly, but internally it shook her. Men always wanted her body temporarily. Nobody ever wanted her heart permanently. She wouldn't fall into another trap, definitely not his. But one Friday night, the trap snapped shut anyway. She'd just finished serving an obnoxious group of businessmen when the manager called her to the back office. His face looked strained, fingers tapping nervously on the desk. "Jasmine, I'm really sorry." Her stomach dropped instantly. "Sorry about what exactly? You're done here." She blinked repeatedly. "What do you mean done? I'm your best server. Customers ask for me specifically." The manager wouldn't meet her eyes directly. Orders came from higher up. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be." "Higher up than you?" Silence crashed between them. Her brain locked onto one name immediately. One man. "You cannot be serious right now." She stormed from the office, heels striking the floor like gunshots. And predictably, there he sat. Minjun sprawled in the VIP booth like absolute royalty, surrounded by bodyguards, but watching only her. "You," she hissed, marching straight toward him without hesitation. "What did you do?" He raised his eyebrows innocently. "Me? I'm just here enjoying the atmosphere. Stop playing games with me. You got me fired, didn't you?" The corner of his mouth lifted slightly. "Maybe." Her voice rose sharply. "Do you understand how hard I work? This job pays my rent." "Who gave you that right?" "I gave myself that right." He leaned forward, voice sharp as broken glass. "Because watching you smile at drunk idiots every night was driving me absolutely insane." Jasmine's jaw dropped open. "Driving you insane? You're completely delusional. You can't just destroy people's lives because your fragile ego gets bruised." He chuckled darkly, dangerously. "Fragile? Beautiful? If my ego was fragile, half this city would be burning rubble right now." "Maybe it should be," she fired back, her accent thickening with pure fury. The entire room went silent instantly. His men shifted uncomfortably, completely unused to anyone raising their voice at their boss like this. But Minjun looked energized, like her fire was oxygen he'd been suffocating without. "You're stunning when you're angry," he said quietly, intensely. She threw her hands up dramatically. "Oh my God, you're impossible. And you're unemployed," he smirked wider, "which means you finally have time to hear my offer." Her eyes narrowed suspiciously. "Offer? Work for me." Jasmine laughed bitterly, harshly. "What, as your personal servant?" "Hard pass. No." His gaze burned into hers. "As the only woman I trust standing beside me." Her heart hammered violently. She wanted to scream, to slap him, to storm out forever, but instead she found herself whispering, "Why me?" For once, his smirk disappeared completely. He leaned back, exhaling heavily through his nose. "Because everyone else wants my money, my power, or my death. You don't care who I am. You challenge me, push back, make me feel," he paused, searching for words. "Human." Jasmine's throat tightened painfully. She hated how her defenses were weakening, hated that he was tearing down her walls without permission whatsoever. So she did what felt natural, masked everything with attitude. "Well, congratulations. You've officially ruined my life and left me broke. Do I get a trophy for that achievement?" He grinned again, softer this time. Yes, a penthouse. Her jaw dropped again. A what now? Penthouse. Han River view. Walk-in closet bigger than this entire club. She stared at him like he'd completely lost his mind. You think you can just buy me? No. His eyes softened genuinely, vulnerably. I think I can protect you. Something cracked inside her at those words. Nobody had ever said them before. Nobody had ever truly meant them. But Jasmine wasn't ready to surrender completely. Not yet, anyway. Listen, Minjun. She jabbed a finger into his tattooed chest firmly. I don't need your penthouse. I don't need your money, and I definitely don't need you. He caught her hand gently, pressing it flat against his chest where his heartbeat was steady. But his eyes were exposed. Maybe not, but I need you desperately. Her breath caught completely. For once, she had absolutely no response. That night, she left the club jobless, planless, and utterly confused while her heart was racing wildly. But one thing was crystal clear. Minjun had just pulled her into his dangerous world completely. And part of her wasn't sure if she wanted escape anymore. The first time Jasmine stepped into Minjun's penthouse, she thought she'd entered a magazine spread. Floor-to-ceiling glass walls showcased the Han River glowing under city lights below. Marble floors gleamed under her heels with perfection. Expensive artwork hung casually like afterthoughts on every wall. The place screamed wealth but felt cold, like a showroom instead of a home. Wow, she muttered, dropping her bag on the leather couch. So this is where the devil lives. Behind her, Minjun chuckled, tossing his keys on the granite counter casually. Flattered you think I'm the devil? He wishes he dressed this well. She rolled her eyes hard. Your ego needs its own zip code. But her sarcasm died instantly when her gaze landed on the glass table. Empty cognac bottles, crushed cigarette packs, and a small vial with white powder clinging to the inside. Her heart sank like lead. Oh, absolutely not, she whispered, picking it up carefully. You're using this poison. He tensed immediately, completely. Put that down, beautiful. Her nostrils flared wide. Are you insane? No wonder you're always on edge and wired constantly. You're killing yourself slowly. Don't lecture me, he snapped, snatching the vial from her grip roughly. You don't understand what it takes to survive my world. Maybe not, she shot back, planting her hands on her hips firmly. But I know self-destruction when I see it clearly. My cousin back home lost everything to this garbage. You think it makes you strong, but it just makes you a prisoner. Her words hung heavy in the air between them. For a moment, his hardened mask cracked slightly. But then he turned away, pouring himself a drink instead of responding. Why do you even care, Jasmine? He asked quietly, almost vulnerably. She hesitated, searching for truth. Why did she care? He was dangerous, ruthless, everything she should run from fast. But seeing him like this, drowning in toxins, made her chest ache in ways she couldn't explain properly. Because somebody needs to, she whispered back. That night she refused to leave his place. Instead, she cooked. Actually cooked in his pristine kitchen that looked completely untouched by human hands. She tied her braids up high, threw on his oversized hoodie, and got to work. Jollof rice and grilled chicken with whatever ingredients she could find scattered around. When Minjun walked in, he froze completely in his tracks. What are you doing? She stirred the pot like she owned the entire place. Cooking, obviously. Nobody cooks here. My private chef delivers everything. Your chef delivers overpriced garbage. Look at these sad seasonings. You Koreans don't understand real flavor. She tossed spices dramatically into the pot for emphasis. He leaned against the counter, amused despite himself entirely. You're insane, and you're malnourished. Sit down now. For the first time in years, Minjun obeyed someone. Without question, they ate together at his massive dining table in comfortable silence. He took one bite and stared at her incredulously. What kind of sorcery is this? She smirked proudly. You like it? He took another bite, then another rapidly, and suddenly Seoul's feared crime prince was devouring food like a starving kid. Jasmine grinned smugly, victoriously. That's what I thought. You're very welcome. For the first time, he laughed genuinely, without reservation. A real laugh, unguarded and raw and beautiful. It startled them both equally, but the sweetness didn't last long at all. 2 nights later, Minjun brought her to a meeting unexpectedly. They drove in his black Mercedes to an abandoned warehouse at Seoul's outskirts in silence. "Stay close to me," he murmured, handing her a jacket to cover her glittery dress. Inside, men in dark suits sat around a long table, cigarettes burning, eyes lethal and cold. The atmosphere suffocated with pure tension. Jasmine felt every pair of eyes linger on her uncomfortably. She gripped Minjun's arm tighter instinctively. "Who's the girl?" one man sneered with disgust. Minjun's gaze went ice cold instantly. "She's mine. Think about her wrong and lose your hand." Jasmine's heart stumbled at those words hard, not just the possessiveness, but the absolute command in his tone completely. The meeting exploded into shouting about shipments and territories rapidly, accusations of betrayal flying wildly, and then gunshots shattered everything. Before she could scream, Minjun pulled her behind him, shielding her body entirely with his own. His men returned fire immediately, chaos erupting throughout the warehouse violently. Jasmine trembled hard, nails digging into his arm desperately, but he never flinched once. When the smoke cleared finally, enemies lay wounded or dead scattered, his men standing victorious. He turned to her, brushing a braid from her damp forehead gently. "You see now," he murmured softly. "This is my world. Dark, brutal, unforgiving every day." She swallowed hard, staring into his fierce eyes directly. "Then let me be your light in it." For a moment, he couldn't breathe at all. Nobody had ever said that to him before. Nobody had ever wanted to stand in his darkness willingly like this. And right there in that shattered warehouse, with smoke still curling in the atmosphere, Minjun realized Jasmine wasn't just another woman passing through. She was the one thing he didn't know he'd been searching for desperately. Back at the penthouse, he sat on the couch, shirt stained with blood and gunpowder residue. Silent and exhausted, Jasmine knelt before him, gently wiping the cut on his jaw with a damp cloth. "You don't have to carry all this alone forever, you know," she said softly, carefully. His eyes locked on hers intensely. "And who else would carry it with me willingly?" "Me," she whispered, without hesitation, "if you'll let me in." He stared at her, heart pounding violently, walls crumbling brick by brick. For the first time, Minjun wasn't the ruthless crime prince everyone feared. He was just a scarred man who'd forgotten what tenderness felt like entirely. And for the first time, he believed maybe, just maybe, someone could actually love him completely. Then the storm arrived without any warning. Jasmine had just finished organizing Minjun's closet, designer clothes that smelled faintly of smoke and expensive cologne, when she heard him shouting in the living room loudly. His voice, usually controlled and measured perfectly, now cracked with pure fury. "You betrayed me completely." Her heart lurched violently. She rushed out and found Minjun gripping his younger brother by the collar, slamming him against the wall hard. Two of his men stood frozen nearby, uncertain whether to intervene at all. The brother, sweat streaming down his face, stammered desperately, frantically. "It wasn't me, Hyung, I swear." "Lies," Minjun's voice thundered through the space. "You leaked the shipment location. You set up the ambush. Men died because of your betrayal." Jasmine's stomach clenched painfully. She remembered that night vividly, the gunfire, the chaos, how he'd used his body as her shield without hesitation. And now betrayal wore a familiar face directly. Family. Minjun spat bitterly, releasing him roughly, always after my empire, always trying to destroy me. His brother scrambled away quickly as Minjun collapsed onto the couch, burying his face in his hands completely. For once, Seoul's ruthless prince looked small, defeated, utterly human. Jasmine approached quietly, carefully, sitting beside him without speaking immediately. She simply reached out, her fingers brushing his knuckles gently, tenderly. He exhaled shakily, vulnerably. "Why are you still here, beautiful? You've seen my world up close now. You've seen the blood, the betrayal, everything. I should have scared you away by now completely." Her accent curled softly through her words warmly. "Maybe I like being a little scared. Keeps life interesting and spicy." He peeked at her, startled by her response. She smirked faintly, genuinely. "Keeps my heart pumping strong." He laughed suddenly, a broken, beautiful sound. But before he could respond properly, the windows exploded inward violently. Gunfire erupted instantly. The penthouse descended into absolute chaos. Glass sprayed everywhere like rainfall, bullets tearing through walls rapidly. Minjun tackled Jasmine to the floor hard, covering her completely with his entire body. His men dove for cover, returning fire immediately without hesitation. "Stay down," he barked, voice fierce with protective command. But Jasmine's eyes caught something absolutely terrifying. A red laser crawling across Minjun's chest slowly, tracking toward his heart precisely. Her pulse spiked violently, dangerously. "No," she screamed desperately, shoving him hard just as the shot rang out loudly. The bullet grazed her shoulder instead, white-hot pain searing through her instantly. She bit back a scream forcefully. Minjun's eyes went completely wild when he saw blood blooming across her sleeve rapidly. "Jasmine!" His voice cracked entirely, raw with emotion. He dragged her behind the couch frantically, fury blazing in his eyes dangerously. His men finished off the attackers quickly, silence falling except for the ringing in her ears. Minjun's hands trembled badly as he pressed cloth to her wound desperately. "Why would you do that? Why would you take a bullet for me?" She winced sharply but locked eyes with him firmly. "Because you're worth saving, Minjun." His breath caught completely. He stared at her like she was something impossible, something sacred and precious. "I've killed people. I've destroyed lives. I don't deserve this. Shut up right now." She grabbed his collar with her good hand, pulling him closer forcefully. "You deserve love, and I'm giving it to you whether you like it or not." For a moment, he couldn't breathe at all. His entire life, the drugs, the violence, the betrayals, it all crashed against the one thing he never thought he'd have genuinely. Someone who wanted him completely. Not his power, not his wealth, just him entirely. And then he kissed her deeply. It wasn't gentle whatsoever. It was desperate, fierce, a storm colliding with wildfire violently. She kissed him back hard, pouring every ounce of her pain and her promise into him. When they broke apart breathlessly, he whispered against her lips shakily, "I love you, beautiful. For the first time in my life, I actually love someone completely." Tears stung her eyes instantly. "Took you long enough, crime boy." He laughed, choked and messy, pressing his forehead to hers gently. "You're crazy, absolutely. And you're mine completely," she whispered back firmly. Weeks later, Seoul still whispered about the ambush nervously, about how Minjun eliminated his enemies in one brutal night efficiently. But the man himself was different now entirely. He was sober completely. The vials of white powder were gone, destroyed by his own hands permanently. The cognac bottles collected dust untouched. His men were shocked, speechless, utterly confused. Their boss, once addicted to chaos, now spent nights at the table eating Jasmine's cooking or laughing at her ridiculous stories about back home. "Imagine you at carnival," she teased one night, moving her hips playfully, teasingly. He smirked, watching her. "Imagine you not constantly stealing my hoodies. That's my favorite one right there. Relax yourself. I look better in it than you do anyway." Their banter filled the penthouse with warmth money could never buy whatsoever. And for the first time in his life, Minjun wasn't just surviving day to day anymore. He was living fully. Because in a world of blood and betrayal constantly, Jasmine had given him the one thing he thought impossible completely, healing. And she had found the one thing she thought she'd never have, genuinely, love. We've reached the conclusion of our compelling African-Korean story. In this story, we discovered that even the darkest hearts can find healing when they're truly loved unconditionally. If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible true stories that prove love can heal the deepest wounds. Share this with someone who needs to believe in second chances. Your support means everything to me. Comment below and tell us what part of this story touched your heart the most.